What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Just a guy on my lunch break talking fight sports. I'm going to go over this UFC Fight Night. Deiveson Figueiredo against Petr Yan in the main fight, which I think is a banger for a fight night. Since we've had these Apex fights going on the past couple of years, some of the fight nights have been getting not the greatest. This is one I'm actually excited about. Two top bantamweights. Both of these guys have been champions. Deiveson Figueiredo is really on his way to becoming champion in the bantamweight division, of course, moving up a weight class where he held the championship belt for a while there. Kind of went back and forth with Brandon Moreno on that. If you want to know a little bit about me, I've been watching the UFC since 1993. So you hear people online all the time talking about casual this, casual that. That's one thing you're not getting with me. No part of this right here is casual, because I was watching this thing when Royce Gracie was still wearing a gi and going in there fighting guys that were 50 pounds heavier than him. And all of the fights outside of the Royce Gracie fights lasted 30 seconds because the guys didn't even train regularly, and they just went in there and then that's it. It was over, right? I watched it when there was no rules, when it was on VHS tape, and the VHS tape clearly read banned in 46 countries or some shit like that. That's how long I've been watching it. I've watched the sport grow. I've watched it evolve. So I truly am one of those super fans. I get all of the pay-per-views. I'll be doing watch parties, all of that good stuff. What I won't be doing is I won't be going over the early prelims and the prelims. There's so many people out there that are doing that. I'm going to go over the main fights, the main card, the most high-profile ones that people are really concerned about. I'm a talker. I like to ramble. I like to go off on tangents. With that said, I'm not going to spend an hour going over 10, 12, 15 fights. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. All right, so Ozzy Diaz versus Zhang Mingyang. Now, I'm going to have to go right out of the gate Zhang Mingyang on this. His last fight in the UFC against Ribeiro was brutal. Brutal KO fashion. It's not often you see a Chinese guy that'll just stand in the pocket and bang. This dude will bite down on his mouthpiece, stand in the pocket with 3-4 punch combinations, and there's not many people in the UFC that are willing to do that. That's how he won his last fight, brutal KO against Ribeiro. And, I just think that he is a much more technical, solid kickboxer than is his opponent, Ozzy Diaz. No, Ozzy Diaz has not had any fights in the UFC yet. He's got a good record, 9-2, 7 wins by knockout, 2 by submission. So he's also a kickboxer, but you can just look at the guy and tell he's not in a good a shape. I did look at one of his previous fights over in Lights Out. He fought in Lights Out Extreme Fighting promotion. Obviously the level of competition over there is not as good, and he just looks slower. He looked like more like the plodding forward, sort of fighter. We don't have we don't have a big sample size of fights to look at with Ozzy Diaz because this is his first fight in the UFC. I just think he's going to have his hands full with Zhang Mingyang, man. I just think Zhang Mingyang is kickboxing is just going to be too good, too tight, too fast, and I see Zhang Mingyang getting this done. Maybe first round they're going to feel each other out a little bit. I say by the second round, Mingyang catches Ozzy with something and puts him out of there. So I'm going Zhang Mingyang second round. Let's go TKO. Let's say he hurts him, stumbles him, goes in for the kill, and the ref stops it. Moving on up the card, we got Carlos Oberg versus Volkan Oezdemir. Now, this is a good fight. Both of these guys can throw hands. Volkan Ozdemir's definitely got some power. He's known to have power. In this case, I don't make you guys wait. I'm going to have to go with Carlos Oberg. I think Carlos Oberg, he's 11-1 overall, 7 wins by knockout, 2 by submission. 7 wins by knockout are coming on the back of a guy who is technical. Okay, he's coming from that whole New Zealand camp. A lot of really good guys in his training camp with him. He has won every fight so far in the UFC. 6 fights overall. He's won every last one of them. Let's see how many TKO. 4 KO TKOs and 1 submission in the UFC. So out of his 6 fights in the UFC, 4 of them come KO TKO. He's tall, he's long, he's technical. I think he is going to be able to get this done over Volkan Ozdemir. Now, with that said, Volkan Ozdemir, 20-7 overall, 13 wins by KO, 2 by submission, and he's had quite a few fights in the UFC, and he's won more than he's lost. But I think he's slower of an athlete than Carlos Ulberg, and I just think that he's only depending on that power to try to win him this fight. I just don't think he has anything technically over Carlos Ulberg, and I think that's going to show on Saturday, and Carlos Ulberg is going to get the TKO. With that said, he needs not to stand in the pocket with Ozdemir. So make sure he moves his feet, go in, out, land his shots, then move, lots of lateral movement, that sort of thing, because if Volkan Ozdemir catches you standing still right in front of him, he can absolutely put you to sleep. Volkan Ozdemir has proven to have massive power in the UFC, but he's also won a few by KO. He has 1 submission. Other than that, he's a KO guy or a decision guy. He's going to be looking to take your head off. Let's go with 3rd round TKO stoppage for Carlos Ulberg. Moving on up the card, we have Gabriela Fernandez versus Wang Kong. Gabriela Fernandez is relatively inexperienced in the UFC. I mean, she's 9-3 overall, 3 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. But if you look at her fight history here, she's lost 2 by decision and then won 1 by split decision. So even the one that she did win was a close fight. Okay, so not feeling really good about her ability to be able to finish this fight. Looks like she goes to a decision quite a bit. Out of 12 fights, she's only has 3 by knockout, which that's kind of par for the course for women. A lot of times women, especially in these like flyweight division like this, they're just not strong enough to really knock each other out. Her opponent, however, Wang Kong, she is very inexperienced, but I'm telling you now, this chick can roll. This chick is very, very well trained, like Zhang Weili. Yeah. I'll tell you, man, these Chinese athletes, China has been coming hard and strong with their athletes more recently. The only fight she did have was against Leonardo, where she did win by KO, TKO. Overall, she's 6-0, so she's not lost a fight yet. 2 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submissions. 2 of those were first-round finishes. So that lets you know right there, she's coming in for blood. She's coming in for the kill. When I watch both of these fight, I think Gabriela, the only chance she really has is to try to get on the inside, get Kong down, and maybe have her way with her there. The problem with that is Kong's takedown defense is 100% accuracy. So in other words, this chick don't get taken down. Okay? So Gabriela would be the first if she is able to get Kong down. Striking accuracy almost 60% for Kong. So in my opinion, I think Kong's just going to be too much for her. I think Gabriela's not going to be able to get her down. With that, she's going to be stuck on the feet with her. Being stuck on the feet with someone who is just levels above you in the kickboxing game, which I believe Kong is over Fernandez, it's just going to be kind of a sitting duck, I think. So either one of 2 things will happen. Wang is going to finish her by KO, TKO, I would say 2nd round, or it's going to go to a decision, 30-27, all in favor of Wang Kong. Moving on up the card. Moving on up to the top. A lot of you are probably too young to remember that. Muslim Salikov versus Song Kenan. All right. Let me break this one down. Muslim Salikov, very experienced fighter, 20-5 overall, 13 wins by KO. So essentially over half of his fights are wins by KO. That's pretty impressive. Only 2 wins by submission. With that said, you're looking for him to come in and bang, come in to throw heat, trying to put people away. Okay. But if you look at his record in the UFC, he's had 6 fights in the UFC. And he's only won 3 of those. Now, the ones that he did win were against, decent, not amazing, but decent competition. He did beat Trinaldo. He did beat Fiallo, which didn't really age all that well when you look at Fiallo now. Fiallo was kind of on a run there for a minute. We thought he was going to be kind of this next big thing, and then all of a sudden his chin just leaves him, and all of a sudden he's just not that great of a fighter anymore. He's getting chinned quite a bit. Lost to Nicholas Dalby, which that was a decision. No shame in that. That was a war. I remember that. And Nicholas Dalby's one of those guys that just does not go away. It's kill or be killed. Who can last the longest through all of the abuse? And Nicholas Dalby's that guy that can just last. He lost to Randy Brown. KO, TKO, no shame in that. Randy Brown's 6'3" in this division, just a massive individual, long, lanky, good boxing, and he actually beat Ponzinibbio, which it was a split decision, but still, that's a good win. Ponzinibbio is he's a strong player in this welterweight division. Song Kenan is 22-8, 9 wins by knockout, 9 wins by submission. He has the ability to do both. Now, almost 50% striking accuracy, takedown accuracy about 33%. So he will try to take people down if it's not working for him on the feet. As far as his fights in the UFC, yeah, he's had 6 fights in the UFC. He has only won 2 of those. He lost to Max Griffin, lost to Machado Gary, no shame in that. Beat Bedoya, decent win there. He beat Ricky Glenn by decision as well. So between these 2 guys, I don't know, man. I just feel like Muslim Sailikov is too big of an individual, and he throws heat. So Song Kenan is going to have to be really, really careful not to stand in the pocket for too long and get caught by Sailikov, because I do feel like Sailikov has a major power advantage here, and he is one of those guys. He throws some heavy overhand rights. I'm not saying he's the greatest technical boxer. He's not the kind of guy to, come in, step out, step back in, throw a 4-punch combination, slip off to the right, then hit you to the body, go over top with the left. I mean, he's not that type of guy, but he is a guy who is big, very strong for the welterweight division, very compact, throws quite a bit of overhand rights. And the thing is, he likes to hide it, by kind of pretending to shoot a takedown, then he'll come over the top with a right. When guys get tired, they start putting their hands down. Sailikov's tough, so he can last through the beginning of the fight. And if he hits Kenan with one of those overhand rights, I just feel like it's going to be lights out. And Sailikov does have 13 wins by KO in his career out of 25 fights. So over half of his fights are KO finishes. So that lets you know he's coming for that KO. And I just think Kenan's not going to be able to stay away from that. So I'm going to go Muslim Sailikov. Let's go second round, end of second round KO. I think he's finally going to catch Kenan with his hands down. And I think the assassin is going to be assassinated. Moving on up the card. At the co-main event, Yan Xiaonan versus Tabitha Ricci. And if we don't get anything outside of this one, Tabitha Ricci's pretty hot. I got to give her credit for that. But that's neither here nor there. That has nothing to do with her ability to win fights. Let's get real. Tabitha Ricci's 11-2 overall. 1 win by knockout, 3 wins by submission. Most of her fights in the UFC, she has won most of them, but of course, most of them have been via decision. She did have 1 submission over Pinay. Her last fight, she did win over Angela Hill. That aged pretty well. Not saying that Angela Hill is, one of the very best, but she's definitely a strong gatekeeper for this women's strawweight division. So if you can beat Angela Hill, that means you've got a good run towards the top, okay? I think if she's going to win this against Yan Xiaonan, that she's going to have to use her takedowns and her wrestling, her grappling, okay? With that said, takedown accuracy of Yan Xiaonan is 73%. Striking accuracy 45%. She has 8 wins by KO. So you're talking about a woman here who has 8 wins by KO in Yan Xiaonan. So I do believe that Yan Xiaonan is going to be able to get this done against Tabitha Ricci. Tabitha Ricci has looked good as of late. She's, won 2 fights in a row. This is looking for her third tomorrow night. But I just think that Yan Xiaonan is just going to be a little bit too much for her. And if you look at her fights in the UFC, I mean, she fought for the title recently against Zhang Wei Li. Lost that fight, but looked really, really good in that fight. If you can go to a unanimous decision with Zhang Wei Li and even being on the wrong side of that decision, she showed that she belongs up there, not only in the UFC, but at the top of it, because Zhang Wei Li is absolutely at the top of that division. Yan Xiaonan showed a really good account of herself in that. Before that, beat Jessica Andrade. Before that, beat Mackenzie Dern. Before that, she actually lost to Rodriguez, but that was a split decision, close fight. A lot of people thought that could have gone to Yan. So, well, God, that didn't age well. She lost to Carla Esparza. Wow. This is back in 2021, so this has been quite a few years ago. Either way, in this case, I'm gonna have to go with Yan Xiaonan. I think that Tabitha Ricci is going to try to stay away from the boxing of Yan Xiaonan. I think she definitely has an advantage. Just seeing the way she fought with Zhang Wei Li this last fight, that lets you know right there, girl can stand and bang, and she's not scared to stand and bang. Tabitha Ricci background of grappling and wrestling. I think that that's the route she's going to go. I think it's probably going to go to a decision, and I'm going to say a unanimous win decision for Yang Xiaonan. Moving up the card to the main event, I am really looking forward to this one. We got Deiveson Figueiredo against Petr Yan. Two of the best. Two of the best. Obviously, we got Deiveson Figueiredo moving up to bantamweight recently. This is actually only I guess this would be his fourth fight at bantamweight. Deiveson Figueiredo's got something like, God, like 19 fights maybe in the UFC. I mean, it's the huge shit ton of experience from this guy. He's 24-3 overall, 9 wins by KO, 9 wins by submission, 11 first round finishes. Deiveson Figueiredo can absolutely put your lights out. With that said, I think that this is where the buck stops for Deiveson Figueiredo in the bantamweight division. So far, he's beaten everyone he's come up against. He beat Rob Font. This was by a decision. Rob Font is no walkover. His boxing's really good. I think he just didn't have the power to contend with Figueiredo. He beat Cody Garbrandt, which, that kind of aged like milk, because Cody Garbrandt pretty much has a glass jaw at this point. Not only has a glass jaw, but he got submitted in the second round by Figueiredo, which I was kind of shocked about that. Cody Garbrandt still has the name value, obviously, so I guess it's aged okay, but it's one of those two where Cody Garbrandt just doesn't win fights anymore, and he's a much older guy at this time. So despite the fact that he was once the man, once a champion, all those things, either way, he beat Cody Garbrandt by submission, okay? His last fight against Vera, that was complete domination. He made Vera look like an amateur. He made him look like just an average old Joe, which I think in hindsight, Marlon Vera is that, to be honest with you. I think his last few fights have shown that. Sean O'Malley masterclassed him and just big brothered him that whole second fight that they had together. You look at only good win that Vera has had in recent history has been against an aging, past his prime Dominique Cruz. So, with that said, I think that was a pretty good win for Figueiredo in the bantamweight division, but I don't think that really shows where he is going to land overall in this bantamweight division. However, now he faces Petr Yan, and Petr Yan has only lost to the best of the best, okay? I mean, if you look at his fight history, Petr Yan beat Song Yadong, who is rising, up and coming. People are expecting Song Yadong to be that next big thing. He lost to Davalish-Willie. Whoop-de-doo, big deal. Who hasn't lost to Davalish-Willie? He lost to Sean O'Malley. Very, very, very controversial fight. Very, very close, controversial fight. A lot of people think that Yan won that. And I've watched the fight over 2 or 3 times, and I can tell you for certain it was close enough to where it could have gone either way. And if Yan would have won that fight, no one would have complained. Okay? Not one soul would have complained. So that one, and the fact that Sean O'Malley went in there and won the belt and then defended it once as well, you have to look at that and say, well, Petr Yan's still up there. He's still up there. Okay. Before that, he lost to Aljamain Sterling. That was a very close fight as well. And that's one of those where Sterling just did what he did best. He backpacked him the whole time, and Yan just wasn't able to keep him off of him. And so he lost. And that was a split decision. It was very close as well. So the fact that he did that well, playing Aljamain's game, just shows how well adaptive he is in the octagon and how he's able to get stuff done at the right time. Before that, had a win over Sandhagen. I mean, Petr Yan's still the man, bro. And before that, of course, he lost to Aljamain Sterling in a fight that he was absolutely dominating that fight. Did something stupid. Aljamain's knee was still down. I guess he thought that his knee was up, or maybe he just got caught up in the moment and wanted to knee him in the face. Who knows? Either way, he kneed a downed opponent, got disqualified that way. That's how Aljamain Sterling ended up getting the belt in the first place. So when you look at Petr Yan's record, Petr Yan is a winner. It's not going to keep going and going and going. He has quite a lot of fights in the UFC as well, but overall 17-5, 22 fights total, 7 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. The boxing of Petr Yan, I think, is going to be the deal in this fight. And I do see Deiveson Figueiredo trying to take Yan down at some point throughout this fight. Petr Yan has a very rich history of boxing. A lot of people, they think of his wrestling background and they put him kind of in that category. But I'm here to tell you, he was an amateur boxer, has had quite a lot of boxing fights. So this man knows how to throw hands in the pocket. And I think he has a way better chance of landing something significant than does Deiveson Figueiredo. Don't get me wrong, Deiveson Figueiredo is not a bad boxer, but he's no Petr Yan. Mark my words on that. Petr Yan absolutely is a better boxer and more technical than Deiveson Figueiredo is. Now, I do think Deiveson Figueiredo carries quite a lot of power at this bantamweight division. With that said, Petr Yan has a damn good chin. Okay? We've not really seen Petr Yan get hurt. He's kind of like a tiny Terminator. He just keeps coming, keeps coming, keeps coming. Sean O'Malley is a big guy for that. And I know a lot of people, oh, he's skinny. No. Sean O'Malley is a big guy for the bantamweight division that has quite a bit of power despite his skinny stature. Trust me. And speed equates to power. And Sean O'Malley's one of the quickest. So for anybody that thinks he doesn't have power, you're full of shit. Because Sean O'Malley does have power. And he hit Petr Yan with some of his best shots. And Petr just kept coming like a little Terminator. So Petr Yan has a great chin. I don't think Figueiredo is going to be able to catch him with anything significant enough to stop Petr Yan. With that said, I do think that Figueiredo is going to work to try to get this fight to the ground, see if he can control Petr Yan on the ground, see if he can take a page out of Dvalishvili's book and just tire him out a little bit, hang on him. Figueiredo is a pretty big guy for this bantamweight division, well-muscled guy. I think he's probably going to be the stronger athlete in there. I think he's going to try to make this a wrestling grappling match. It's hard to know who to pick. It's hard to know who to pick because if Figueiredo is not able to hold him down, and you got Petr Yan's been through fights with people like Aljamain Sterling where he knows what it's like for somebody to only be after one aspect of the game while they're in there. Aljamain Sterling was not interested in striking with Petr Yan at all. He was in there for one thing, that was grappling. A lot of times when you go through fights like that, where you're in there with people who that's their whole game plan, it causes you to learn a lot, and you get better. So it could be that Petr Yan has gotten quite a bit better at his takedown defense, staying on his feet, because I do think that he's going to be trying to stay on his feet in this fight. I mean, he's got a 54% striking accuracy. His takedown defense or his takedown accuracy is 51%. So he's no slouch when it comes to grappling too. I think he's a better wrestler than Deiveson Figueiredo, but I think the grappling and the submission definitely is going to go to the Brazilian. All right, and that's just kind of, I chalk that up to geographical regions. Those guys over in Brazil, that's just something that's more innately incorporated into their MMA game, is the whole jiu-jitsu realm. And I know Petr Yan's got the wrestling, and which has quite, and for him being from that region he's from, has quite a bit of sambo, which also has submissions in it. So I'm not saying that Petr Yan doesn't have a clue about submissions, but I think his bread and butter is going to be on his feet. I think he's a better boxer, a better kickboxer. I think he's more defensively sound on the feet than is Deiveson Figueiredo, because Deiveson Figueiredo, he gets caught. He got caught quite a bit by Brandon Moreno in their fight. He got caught several times by Rob Font. The problem with Rob Font is he doesn't have any power at that weight class. He's a good boxer. He can put hands on you, but it's kind of like, oh, you kind of feel like a seventh grader's hitting you when it's Rob Font. He just doesn't carry any power at that weight class. I could really see Deiveson Figueiredo coming in there, getting Petr Yan down, tiring him out. I don't see him submitting him, but I could definitely see him making this a dirty, grimy fight where he just keeps dragging him down to the canvas, and then Petr Yan's just not ever able to get off any of his boxing and his kickboxing and do that all the way to a 5-round decision. I can definitely see that happening. On the flip side of it, I could also see Petr Yan starting to piece Figueiredo up on the feet a little bit, being the faster, more technical boxer. Then Figueiredo trying to shoot, not being able to get the takedown, because Petr Yan's been there before, has very good takedown defense. And I could see him just being able to keep it on the feet and shuck off all of Figueiredo's takedown attempts, and then the next thing you know, Figueiredo's stuck on his feet with a guy who is a better boxer, better kickboxer, probably a little faster at this weight division. So I could really kind of see either way. If Petr Yan wins this, I don't think it's going to be via decision. I think Petr Yan is going to win this by TKO or KO. I think he's going to catch Figueiredo with something, hurt him, and then it's just going to be, end game from there. But if Figueiredo wins this, I feel like it's going to be him kind of grappling his way to a decision. Who am I going to pick? I'd like to see the resurgence of Petr Yan. I just like Petr Yan. I like his no-nonsense, I'm not here to talk shit, I'm here to fight. I'm from this region of the earth where at 12 years old, I was out there working a full-time job on a shrimp boat or whatever he did. It probably wasn't a shrimp boat. I really don't know. But I have heard he's that kid that since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, which he's still kind of knee-high to a grasshopper. Either way, he is a very, very hard-working, nose-to-the-grind sort of individual and sort of fighter. I think he still carries that today, and I just like that about him. I think that he has a better chance, making another title run than does Deiveson Figueiredo at this point. I think Deiveson Figueiredo has looked good so far with the opponents that he's faced. I think some people are giving him a little bit too much credit for those wins because let's get real, y'all. Rob Font hits like a girl. Cody Garbrandt is a dead body at this point. And Vera, if you have any sort of good technical skill at all, Vera might be able to last to the bell just because he's a hard-headed, tough son of a bitch. But unless you're a Dominique Cruz who constantly, leans your head out with your hands down like this, Marlon Vera has not looked good recently. So I don't think those wins in the bantamweight division have aged really well for Deiveson Figueiredo. I think the buck stops here. I think we really get to see where Deiveson Figueiredo stacks up in this bantamweight division with this fight against Petr Yan on Saturday. So I'm going to say Petr Yan, KO, TKO, fourth round, and we'll see what happens. If that doesn't happen, it's going to be Figueiredo by decision. I don't see him finishing Petr Yan at all. Guys, that's it. We will find out Saturday. If you would, subscribe to the channel, like the video, also leave a comment down below. Let me know specifically who you think is going to win this main event. I'm curious to know what you guys think, and that's going to be it for me. Just a guy on my lunch break talking fight sports. I'm out. Peace.